Warmer and warmer spring is definitely underway, and on Monday, the National Weather Service unveiled a new online tool for people to use to stay safe from the heat. WGEM's meteorologist Kyle Eck has the latest.
Heat. It's something we often associate with spring and summer. It allows people to enjoy outdoor activities such as sports, but in times of intense heat, it can take a toll on the body.
That's going to drive water breaks, maybe whether you even practice at all, how long practice is.
That's where the National Weather Service Heat Risk Index comes in. It's an experimental color numeric-based index comprised of 5 categories: green, yellow, orange, red, and magenta. Heat risk identifies unusual heat, defined as the highest 5% of recorded temperatures for a particular date and location. The index provides a risk of heat-related impacts for a given location in a 24-hour period, with multiple factors going into it.
How unusual the heat is for the time of year, the duration of the heat during the daytime and the nighttime hours, and it takes into account some additional data from the CDC.
While humidity isn't a direct factor of this index, as it can help in fighting the heat index, it plays more of an indirect role with temperatures.
More humid air tends to lead to warmer or overnight low temperatures. So in effect, in that way, humidity is sort of factored into this whole equation.
Heat risk indices are different from other National Weather Service heat-related tools like heat advisories and excessive heat warnings.
I look at it as another tool that we can all use to increase awareness and essentially help people safe.
At the end of the day, the heat risk index can be adapted to your heat sensitivity and allow you to stay ahead of the forecast. Meteorologist Kyle Eck, WGEM News, Quincy.
And heat risk is also a useful tool for first responders who treat those suffering from heat-related illnesses.